Deputy Minister, fellow colleagues, members of the media. My name is Foster Mhale. I'm responsible for media relations in the National Department of Health. I'm going to hand over to the Honorable Minister, Dr. Joe Patla, to take to the podium to take us through the purpose of this media briefing without wasting any time. Over to you, Minister.
Good morning, morning colleagues. Morning to Deputy Minister, Dr. Lomo. Morning to DG, Dr. Butelezi, the team, and members of the media. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. I'm speaking to you from Mpumalanga this morning, from Wheatbank, where we are interacting with the province to give them support in the supply of most of yesterday with the province, and also today we'll be visiting a number of health facilities. The purpose of the briefing this morning is to update our media colleagues and also members of for the public in terms of steps which we are taking to mitigate against the impact of load shedding on our ability to provide health services. Indeed, it is a matter of fact that load shedding, especially as it gets intensified and over a prolonged period, has negative impact on our ability to provide quality health services. We know that load shedding is not new. It's not something of which happened recently. It's been with us. There have been, indications that the situation would improve. We were very optimistic even early this year that the situation was improving. But over the last few weeks and months, things have clearly turned for the worst, where we have seen sustained load shedding up to stage 5 and 6, which lead to really very difficult situation in terms of our health facilities to continue to perform their duties. Load shedding does affect our ability to provide uninterrupted and quality health services. Although many of our facilities, especially all hospitals, and also most of our community health centers, all 24-hour services do have generators to support the grid, and also other forms of UPS, uninterrupted power supplies. But these alternative sources of support for electricity supply have not been made for prolonged periods of outages. So in terms of their ability to support and carry the facilities in all their respects to continue to to provide services, it's not this backup systems are not meant for really as primary sources of power generation. So when the interruption is daily and over prolonged period, it does make a very big risk in terms of many of our facilities, their ability to be able to continue to supply services. Now, this not only has a risk in terms of just providing services, but also even in terms of our equipment. Medical equipment, we know that currently, with the improvement of technology, also our health equipment have been upgraded. We talk now of digital X-rays, CT scans, MR scanners, information, technology systems. All this rely on, uninterrupted power supply. And when there's ups and downs of surges of electricity, and the next moment there's interruption, when this comes up and down regularly, it also damages some of this equipment. and even the lifespan of even our backup systems. It also risks our cold chain. If there's any interruption and some of our backup systems, because of frequency, are unable to sustain, then there's a risk to many of our, consumables, medical, pharmaceuticals, medications, and especially vaccines. We know that over and above the COVID vaccines, we carry a lot of other vaccines for children, and we now this also puts the security of our staff at risk, because many of our facilities are spread over huge surface areas. If one just keeps in mind a facility like Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, which is spread over quite a huge area, and there are many others. Health workers have to move from different parts of the hospitals, and also those who are residing within the premises have to move between their residences at night when staff are called for emergencies at night. If there is load shedding, it means with the generators and UPS can't keep the whole area with lighting, and that also provides. And we know that there's been various risks of security where some of our health workers, have been harmed, and the breakdown of power supply does exacerbate this. I can also just add that we've also had reports when health workers knock off outside the health facilities, and there are some areas where we've been receiving reports that community policing forums have had to come on board to help. There are some thugs who prey on health workers, knowing that many of them finish their work late at night, and when there is outages in the streets, in the areas where they live, they pounce on them as they arrive at their taxi ranks, bus stops, and trains. So in terms of interventions, we reported earlier this week that we're engaging with relevant authorities in the power supply chain to try and mitigate against this. Today, we can report that we've made progress in this regard. Just yesterday, Dr. Buthelezi, the DG, and the team, other managers from our finance and also from our infrastructure section, had a very long and fruitful discussions with the leadership from ESCOM, together with our leaders from the provincial health departments. In some cases, from the provinces, also municipalities have been engaged. Some progress has been made, but this remains work in progress as we work with ESCOM and municipalities. Just as an indication of the progress which has been made, the following facilities we can mention today that they have been already exempted from power outages when load shedding does happen. Of course, this may not be the case when there is a breakdown of cables in the supply through ESCOM itself or municipalities, but in terms of planned and managed load shedding, these facilities, as we speak with you currently, have been guaranteed to be exempted, either directly through ESCOM or through the local authorities which are supplying them with electricity. In the Gauteng province, Charlotte Maclake Hospital, Helen Joseph, Steve Biko Academic Hospital, George Mukari in Garankuwa, Pretoria West, Tshwane District, which is neighboring on Steve Biko Hospital, Mamelodi Hospital, and also Bronkhorstspruit Hospital. Obviously, we would want more hospitals to be included. This is work in progress, with the various authorities and ESCOM to increase. As you know, Gauteng carries a big load of our population. Almost 1/4 of South Africans are in Gauteng, and they carry therefore almost more than 1/4 of the load of health services, because also with three medical universities and also our central hospitals, 4 central hospitals just in Gauteng. So they carry a lot more responsibility, and we're working with them to make sure that this can be increased. In the Free State, unfortunately, at this stage, only Pelonomi Hospital is guaranteed. Again, we're working around the clock to make sure this can be increased. In KwaZulu-Natal, we have Harry Gwala Hospital, the Grace Hospital, Ladysmith Hospital, Prince Msheni in Mlazi, RK Khan, Chatsworth, Inkosi Albert in the eThekwini, Mekots also in eThekwini, King Dinizulu eThekwini, Mandela Children's Hospital, eThekwini, Mahatma Gandhi, eThekwini, Osindisweni Hospital, St. Aidan's, also in eThekwini, and Osindisweni also in the greater eThekwini area, Addington in eThekwini, and Clearwood. So Clearwood Hospital also eThekwini. So as we can see, in KZN, it's largely in the eThekwini area, but we're working with the province and part of what I've mentioned already with ESCOM to extend this to all the districts. We know that KZN has got all in all 11 districts, so we're working with them to improve, to make sure that all districts can benefit. In Limpopo province, the Mankweng Hospital near the University of Limpopo, Leboagomo Hospital, Dilokong Hospital in the Tubat area, and Mecklenburg Hospital also in the Tubat area. So there are already, I mean, we, for instance, in the Limpopo, clearly a hospital like the Petersburg Hospital, which is one of the tertiary hospitals, is also quite key. And again, would want to see all districts benefiting from exemption in this regard. In the Eastern Cape, Frere Hospital, Elliot Hospital, Livingston, Port Elizabeth Hospital, and UTNH Hospital. So again, you can see that they're very key hospitals in big centers, like you can think of hospitals like the Makiwane Hospital, you know, in East London, which are not yet benefiting, which Cecilia Makiwane Hospital, for instance, as one of our major hospitals, and many others, Nelson Mandela Academic. So there's still a lot of work to be done in the Eastern Cape with ESCOM, especially in our rural big districts. I mean, in the OR Tambo, in all the districts, there's still a lot of work to be done. In the Western Cape, the hospitals which are benefiting currently, Tygerberg, Groote and Red Cross. So it's only in the metro, in the Cape Town metro, where this benefit is already being experienced. We still have to work with the province and ESCOM and the other energy suppliers to make sure all districts in the Western Cape can benefit. Northern Cape, there's, at the current moment, we have not been given any particular hospitals at this stage which is benefiting. We still have to work with the province to make sure that at least, you know, their big hospitals can benefit, but also again, all the measures, you know, health facilities. Here where I am in Witbank Tertiary Hospital is already a beneficiary, and also in Nelspruit, Rob Ferreira, which is also a tertiary hospital. So as we can see, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit of progress. We would have wished for a lot more, but we're going to be really following this up around the clock to make sure that many more facilities, you know, are exempted from continuous load shedding. So in terms of our response, we have developed a multifaceted strategy for immediate, short-term, and long-term intervention. So engagement between ourselves and ESCOM and municipalities have resulted in an agreement also with the provincial health department to submit consolidated lists of facilities, indicating their location to assist in the determination of a workable way to exempt them from load shedding. As you would know that there are two sets of differentiated areas of power supply in our country. In the majority of our urban areas, especially in the metros and big cities, you have a particular way of supply as compared to the rural areas. In the cities, metros themselves do supply and bill the various consumers. In the rural areas and also in some townships, as we know, the ongoing issue in Soweto and other townships, but mainly in rural areas, the connection is directly by ESCOM. And therefore, this affects the technical methods to exempt facilities from load shedding. In case of ESCOM direct connection, they will directly work with us to exempt these facilities from load shedding through their direct supply. We work with them. We're going to be working with them as we supply them with the names and location in the coming days. And in the case of municipalities, ESCOM will be working with the municipalities to install dedicated feeder lines that will kick in once the municipality has because as the rotation goes, municipalities have an undertaking to ESCOM to switch off certain areas. So when this happens, in those areas where municipalities are the suppliers, this separate electricity to those institutions. Provincial departments have been asked to do this consolidation and submit through our national team at the latest by Wednesday next week, so that our team can then meet again with ESCOM and also working together with the provinces to engage with the municipalities, which are electricity suppliers, instead of individual health facilities negotiating on their own. So we want to work as a team to make sure that we can achieve maximum impact. This will assist to determine also the cost of additional resources, where it's been indicated that some of these separate cables and reconfiguration will come at a cost, and we'll work with ESCOM and see together with ourselves and our infrastructure teams how to make sure that this can be done and how to reprioritize our budgets in this regard. The criteria for hospital and other health facilities exemptions will include the volume of patient load, nature of specialized services, and also the technology, medical equipment, which has to be safeguarded. So this will, as you see, will prioritize central hospitals, which are very key in referrals of complicated cases and do a lot of life-saving interventions of critically ill patients, regional and district hospitals, but also the 24-hour community health centers and clinics. And so the clinics, for instance, which operate only 8 hours, will be also catered for, but will not be in the front of the queue, because if they work during the day, there will be some ways in which they can still be able to operate. But of course, the equipment such as refrigerators have to be protected. The exemptions do not mean that these facilities should just use electricity without any safeguarding. We have given an undertaking to ESCOM that we respect their call to ensure a very prudent use of electricity so that the nation can benefit while there is a shortage. Our department is also engaging with the National Treasury to discuss additional budget implications to sustain these interventions. We know already, even yesterday, engaging with the province of Mpumalanga, that with this increased burden, the consumption of diesel and oil has skyrocketed. And some of our districts and health facilities, as we speak now, in September, they have already exhausted their 12-month supply of what they've budgeted for in terms of diesel and oil and maintenance of this generator. So we're going to have to, we're engaging with our colleagues in Treasury to see how we can reprioritize to support, these facilities because it's not out of poor planning. This is unforeseen and unavoidable expenditure, which we need to find ways to see how to mitigate. We're also working on a phased approach to invest in renewable energy through installation of solar power facilities at all our health facilities to provide an energy mix. There is a feasibility study which is being undertaken by our team from our technical infrastructure team and also finance team to look at how this feasibility to look at how we can phase in the introduction of this energy mix based on budget availability. But we want to make sure that this doesn't take too long, that we get to finality, so that as early as in the new financial year, starting in April next year, we can be able to roll out this energy mix with solar, with UPS, and any other batteries, lithium batteries, whatever is available in the market. And we must study the market situation and see how we can support our health facilities to make sure that we have uninterrupted power supply. So the installation of this uninterrupted power supply will improve reliability and efficiency of electricity supply across the entire system of our health facilities, so that we can be able to sustain services, but also to protect our information data, because all sorts of data is very important. Patient information, laboratory information, all this, with interruption, we can lose a whole lot of very important data of clinical information critical for saving lives. So in summary, we appreciate the support and commitment by ESCOM to support the exclusion of certain health facilities from load shedding. We want to, finally, we hope that as many as possible, especially our 24-hour services, will actually come on, into this protection. From our side, we have committed to ESCOM that where there's need to be installation of these additional cables and other power alternative lines, we will do our best to make sure that we will also reprioritize and find ways to contribute towards these alternatives. We will work together to mitigate against the costs. And again, that's why we also engaging colleagues in National Treasury, because we believe this is a life-saving investment, which we have a duty to make sure that we can do this. So as I conclude, ladies and gentlemen, because of the circumstances in which we have to operate, we have to make sure that in future, all facilities which are in planning now, which have not yet been implemented, must include within the technical planning, this alternative power supply, additional power supplies, especially renewables, over and above generators, so that in future, all our facilities can be able to sustain long periods of power cuts. Unfortunately, this is what we have to do, but we believe that this is something which will augur very well for sustainability of our health services in the future, and also contribute to green energy supply. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, for that good presentation and update as far as the impact of load shedding on the provision of health services is concerned, together with the intervention measures by government. So far, we've got a very few questions. Hopefully, there might be follow-up questions. I'm going to quickly take Minister, the first batch of questions read as follows. Question number 1, are equipment like ventilators also affected by the load shedding? The impact of load shedding on the equipment like ventilators. Question number 2, could load shedding at hospitals lead to people dying? So here the person is asking if there are any reported deaths that are linked to load shedding from our health facilities. Question number 3, what problems does the private sector have with load shedding? Is it similar? Is the private sector also experiencing the same problems? What about the exemption of private hospitals, just like the public health facilities? Last question, what is the backlog of emergency surgeries that has been caused by load shedding in public hospitals? What are other challenges that public health workers complained about? I'm not sure if you got the questions, Minister and Deputy Minister, DG, and other colleagues. I see that 3 more questions just came through. Let me quickly read them. From Jesse Kopenin, can you just clarify if hospitals in the Western Cape have been exempted from load shedding? It's just hospitals in Cape Town. Is it hospitals in Cape Town? So here the person is asking about the exemption of hospitals in the Western Cape, not necessarily in Cape Town, because here the focus is more on the city of Cape Town. Second question, total, how many healthcare centers are exempted from load shedding? Even though on this one, you did indicate, Minister, that this is a work in progress, but if you feel to elaborate on this, feel free. The last question is with regards to power mix. What's this question now? The question has been removed. Question from Heidi Jokos from ENCA. What has been the conversation like with government? Why is it not standard for all hospitals to be exempted? Are you aware of any patients who have died because of load shedding? The last question, to the plan to implement this plan. Yeah, this is the first batch.
Foster, your last question, we lost you for a while. Last one.
I'm load shedded as well as we speak. The last question is about the power mix. How does the department plan to implement this power mix plan?
Thank you very much. Yes. Thank you very much. Can I also, I know the DG was in the meeting. I'm not sure from our technical team, Christy Engelbrecht is there. I know, I'm not sure whether Mr. Nevutalo is also there. Deputy Minister is there. For instance, on the Western Cape question, if the DG can be ready, DG was in the meeting, whether there were any reports of deaths, and also maybe DG, I will touch on just from what I know, but if you could also come in from the discussions, private hospitals. Okay, let me just start, and then the team, colleagues, Dr. Chris and others, why not all hospitals, and then power mix. Okay. In terms of ventilators, as we've said in our statement, a number of equipments are at risk. Ventilators are quite key in our ICUs, and those are some of the very, sensitive equipment which have to be protected, because if there can be any power interruption with a ventilator, you're almost certain that the patient is going to die, because somebody who's on ventilator, it means they are not able to breathe on their own at that stage. So indeed, they are it's one of the very sensitive equipments which we must protect. Yeah, if there can be if there can be power interruption, then lives will be in danger in our ICUs. Any death thus far from interaction with our colleagues, I've not had any report directly attributed to load shedding, but the DG was with the HODs yesterday. He can also come in. Private hospitals, I know that, for instance, in Johannesburg, in the list of exempted hospitals, there are also some private hospitals. I would expect that many of them, as it's mandatory for health facilities, they do have a backup power supply. But we have not been approached for assistance. But I think it's something which maybe, because currently you'd be aware, colleagues, that almost 85 to 90% of the public of South Africa depend on public health services. So, and that's where our main focus is. We do have a responsibility for the entire health service as the Ministry of Health and the National Department. Our responsibility is not only limited to public health, but the authorities who run these facilities do take care of their own facilities. So if we do have any request to also assist in this regard, we obviously did not prioritize having to follow them up, because we have a responsibility for 90% of what the public, 90% of South Africans depend on, which is the public health system. So we have to make sure we prioritize that rather than the 10 to 15%, which in any way, I mean, there are particular authorities who have a responsibility, but if we do get requests to include, but already we know in some localities they are already part of the exemptions. So this is already happening. So that takes care of also the next question about exempting private health facilities. We currently are not ourselves making this as our own top priority because of the volume of what the public health facilities have to carry as the primary mode of provision of health service in the country. As I've said, 85 to 90% of the South Africans depend on this. But we will encourage authorities, electricity authorities, that is ESCOM, and the local authorities to include the private facilities in their exemption as we interact with them. Backlogs of surgery, we did report this to the portfolio committee on Wednesday, but this cannot directly be attributed only to load shedding, because as you know that we also come from interruption by the pandemic. So a lot of the backlogs have also been as a result of the pandemic. When we reported on Wednesday, in total, we're looking at between 170,000 and 180,000, just between 170 and 180,000 backlogs in various forms of surgery. A big number of those which were recorded was in the Western Cape, and all provinces did report somewhere between 5 and 10,000 backlogs in cataracts, in orthopedic, knee replacements, hip replacements, various forms of elective surgery. But all provinces reported that in terms of emergency surgery, they prioritize. So what is the backlog is largely planned surgery, which is what you call elective surgery. Other complaints, well, as we interact with our health facilities, they differ from health facility to health facility. Issues of workload, issues of some shortage of some equipment, and a number of other. I mean, this later today, I will be interacting with the health workers at the Witbank Hospital and also in the clinics to hear from them some of their challenges. So there are a whole lot of other issues which we have to interact with and address as we interact with our frontline health workers over and above some of the things which I've mentioned the risks in terms of load shedding, not only at the hospitals, but also when they have to travel home and arrive in the period of darkness in the streets. The issue of Western Cape, that as far as I'm informed from the meeting and from their own submission, is Cape Town, City of Cape Town is the one which has been able to work with the province to safeguard the tertiary hospitals. But the DG will talk to this because he was on the meeting with Dr. Klute, the HOD. In terms of the number of facilities, what we have given here is a preliminary in terms of what do we have by today. How many? 37. We have a total of 37, which is still a drop in the ocean. Yeah, the 37. So we want to make sure that the over 300 hospitals and a lot more health centers which we have in the country should all be exempted. So we can say at this stage, we're probably still about a tenth of our hospital facilities which are exempted, and we want all the remaining 90% to come on board. And this is what in the next 7 days the DG will be receiving input from colleagues in the provinces and working with the authorities to try and include many more. And why not all the hospitals? It's a practical situation. It's a practical situation and I'll ask DG and the technical people, Christy, just to explain again why it can't be just done by a click of a button in terms of exempting. What do we mean by power mix? We will continue, obviously, to depend on the ESCOM grid, on the national grid for the majority of our power supply. That's why we put as a top priority exemption from load shedding. Secondly, we will continue with the diesel generators, which have served us very well. But as I've said, when they are working, they do very well in terms of as an emergency backup, but they are not meant for long hours. So we want to include renewable energy already. As we were discussing here in Witbank, one of the hospitals which is being constructed, they already showed us pictures, and I'm looking forward to visit the new Mapulaneng Bushbuck Ridge Hospital, which is being constructed, where they already put some solar panels as part of the plan for the hospital. But the detailed more work is being done to make sure that in future all our hospitals should have a mix with all these solar panels, also array of batteries, which storage batteries, which should be able to contribute to uninterrupted power supply. DG and Christy and others, you can add in, and Deputy Minister, on some of the matters, please. Let me start with the DG who was leading the team yesterday.
Thank you very much, Minister. Just to add that, yes, we have not received any reports of any death that is directly attributable to the load shedding, as the Minister has mentioned. Yes, on the Western Cape, the hospitals that are exempted currently is the major hospitals in the city of Cape Town, which is Tygerberg, Grooterschuur, and the Red Cross Children's Hospital. But in terms of the list and the report we had yesterday, they're currently working closely with ESCOM to do the evaluation and consider George Hospital, Khayelitsha, Mitchell's Plain, Worcester, Paarl, Caledon, and Vredendal. So, we will know by next week how far this work is. And just to stress, Minister, we have now formed a working team that is going to be meeting every week. So that team is led by myself from the department, and a group executive responsible for distribution at ESCOM.
Muted.
No,
you're muted.
I think the DG's line is breaking. Can you just repeat? We lost you.
Yes. No.
The team.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. We have set up a team, a high-level team that is going to meet every week. That on the ESCOM side is led by the group executive for distribution, and on the department side it's led by the DG. What we have then also done is that all our heads of departments, we've linked them up with the relevant regional managers, and they do work in between these meetings, so that every time we meet, like we're going to meet again on Wednesday next week, just to get what progress needs to be done. Now, again, just to mention, one of the urgent things that we've asked them to do to report back to us is for those hospitals that do not have dedicated feeds or dedicated cables, because if you don't have a dedicated cable, you are part of a cable that fits the whole area, it becomes a bit difficult to isolate. So that's one of the urgent issues we want to see, how we will ensure that most of, at least the big facilities have dedicated feeds, so that we can work together and ensure that they have dedicated feeds. I think that's all that I want to add. The minister has actually covered most of the things. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister.
I hope you are not being load-shedded already, because you keep breaking. I don't know if Christine Engelbrecht, on the technical side of why we can't get immediate switch to exemption. Christy, any addition from your side?
Thank you, Minister. Yeah, most of the stuff has been covered by the DG, but with regard to the exemption, the explanation that we've got from ESCOM, it's not, they look at the reliability as well as the efficiency of the power to the certain area with regard on that specific hospital or facility around that hospital. In some instances, it's not practical, because they need to also provide power to certain facilities around that specific health facility. So that's why they said we need to look at the installing of power cables to that specific health facility. That's where the only exemption can be occur with, on that specific health facility, Minister. That's all from my side that I want to cover or support what the DG was already speaking about. Thank you, Minister.
Foster, can we get back to you?
Yes, a few questions. I think about two. The first question is, the journalist said we're breaking when we're trying to explain, clarify the different processes for exemption needed between the spaces due to different method of energy. The fact that the person was either experiencing load shedding or it was on our side. So it's asking to emphasize, to clarify the different processes to be followed for to be exempted. The second question is mainly on the cost, the financial implications of the cost incurred, especially on diesel or fuel due to load shedding in the last year or months or 3 months.
Foster, we also lost you. The cost of what? Just repeat.
The cost of the cost incurred, especially with regards to fuel to run generators in the last 3 months to 12 months.
Okay, maybe let me just start with that one. And I don't know if Mr. Nabitalo is on the line. I don't see his name here.
He's struggling to connect, is experiencing the technical challenges, but he shared the response with me. He just emphasized exactly what you have responded on to say.
He's connected, he's here, Foster.
But it's not on the panel.
No, he's here on the panel now.
It's on the panel now.
Yes.
Let's see. No, I don't see him on the panel on my side. Did tell me, but he
Okay.
did enter. Okay, maybe Minister can go.
Yeah, I think let's just deal with it, because I think we already mentioned about it, because he's also here in Witbank. We've been together most of yesterday, and we'll be together this morning. Yeah, the issue there, as I've given an example of, even here in Witbank and in the Mpumalanga province, and DG can confirm also that virtually all provinces are reporting, that their budgets for diesel is getting exhausted much earlier, because this was meant for just emergency backup. Now they have to run sometime for 8 to 12 hours at times of the day. So, so what we are looking at, it's a matter which, in my discussion with the DG, the Chief Financial Officer, and Mr. Hartley Nabitalu, we are looking at the question of that as a ministry and the department, we should make an approach to our colleagues in the Ministry of Finance and National Treasury to make a case for possible assistance to mitigate as an unforeseen and unavoidable expenditure, to assist our colleagues in the institutions to mitigate against the shortage of money as a result of this unforeseen and unavoidable expenditure on diesel and oil and other consumables relating to generators. So I think at this stage, that's all. We have received indications. I'm sure from the DG's team with HODs, we'll get a lot more details, facility from each province, which can be validated, and then with that, we'll be making our case and request for assistance. I think at this stage, maybe that's all we can say. Foster, as you said, on the issue of the differentiation, we can just repeat for those who didn't get it, that there's a separation between where our facilities receive power directly from Eskom, where in which case they will look at how they can ring fence the supply to those facilities, even though from, as Mr. Christy Engelbrecht mentioned, they did emphasize that even where they themselves supply directly, they have to work around some situations where our facilities share the lines and the substations and what do you call the transformers with other community and other neighboring structures. And so they even in safeguarding our facilities, there is work which will have to be done to separate them where they share the lines, even where there's Eskom. But in those cases, they themselves, Eskom, will attend to that. But also because of depending on the kind of volume of power, the voltages and all those things, they'll have to look at that. But in those cases, Eskom itself will work with our teams to ring fence and exempt our facilities. But in cases where it's other secondary suppliers like municipalities or their entities, Eskom will work with us to discuss with those municipalities facilities for, especially with the metros and other cities and towns, to make sure that there can be additional connections over and above what the municipality is supplying, so that through those additional connections, which may entail additional lines to our facilities, so that when there is load shedding, because when Eskom expect a municipality to load shed certain amount of electricity, then through the dedicated line, they can be able to maintain supply to our facilities. So those are the kind of things which the DG's team, together with the head of generation at ESCOM and the various municipalities and electricity supply agencies, will be working on in detail. So we will update the nation on a regular basis. This 37 facilities is as of now, but as this work goes on, there's going to be more and more added. So we'll be updating the public as we go on. Thank you very much, Foster.
Thank you very much, Minister, for emphasizing those questions. We are doing well in terms of time. Maybe I should give the Deputy Minister to do the round of closure before we officially close. DM?
Okay. No, thank you very much. Thank you very much to our minister, and good morning to our minister and the team led by DG. Just some few things that the minister has actually raised. Though the minister is saying we have 37 hospitals, but he's indicating very clearly it's a work in progress. But again, if you look into the hospitals given, you see that these are large volume hospitals in terms of clients and patients, and also a lot of them do have some backup. It's just that frequent load shedding is putting a strain on them, and but this is not like we are starting from no base. Just to indicate to the point raised by the minister that in KwaZulu-Natal, yes, is the largest number of hospitals are in eThekwini, but Grace Hospital and Herigwala is a former Itindale hospital. Those are two large hospitals, one tertiary Grace and then regional Itindale. They are in Pietermaritzburg, and also Ladysmith is also part of the benefit exemption. What we are picking up, yes, from our workers in hospitals is actually enforced by what minister is trying to do, that it is also impacting very positively on the safety and security of our healthcare workers. Yes, a lot of them would come in the evenings, park their cars, and get to be marked sometimes here and there. So this also, while it is focusing on improving the patient safety and care, it is also benefiting our patients greatly, and we are really happy about that, Minister. The last one that I picked up from your briefing, Minister, and what DG has shared is that we are now going to have weekly meetings between teams led by DG on our side and the ESCOM to continuously work on this process. So I think it was very kind of you, Minister, to brief the nation about this process and to say, yes, there is work in progress already. We haven't really been, we haven't lost lives, and we are working very hard not to get to that level. And I think that is what one could raise and share with our leadership that is coming in from the briefing that the minister has had with us this morning. Thank you very much, Foster.
Thanks very much, Honorable Deputy Minister, for the closing remarks. Maybe before I do the official closing, I want to have the parting shot, the last parting shot from Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Foster, and thanks to our team, which have been working with ESCOM. I would really want to take this opportunity again to thank and appreciate all our colleagues, MSCs, HODs, heads of institutions, the frontline workers, clinicians, and everybody who, despite the difficult conditions under which we do function over and above load shedding, we know that our public health facilities are under tremendous pressure, huge demands for services, not always being able to provide everything that is required, and also to appreciate the patience of our public using all these facilities. I want to assure you that we're doing everything possible to support our frontline health workers in making sure that they can be able to provide quality health services timely. And we know that we're not we're not already there in many cases in terms of the level of quality. But with all these interventions, we hope that working together, we can be able to improve our service. Thank you very much for all, and also our media people for helping us to get information to the public. And thanks back to you, Foster.
Thanks very much, Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister, DG, colleagues, and members of the media for being with us this morning. Yes, just to confirm that we'll always be available to update the media as we move through this load shedding, to update the media, the public, in terms of the number of facilities that are exempted, as the minister has indicated. So on that note, I'm going to declare this media briefing adjourned. Thanks.
Thanks, Foster.
Thank you.